Are your children constantly glued to their phones? Do you see them scrolling late into the night, laughing at reels one moment and withdrawing into silence the next? Have homework hours quietly turned into screen hours? If you have ever wondered whether your child is hooked on social media and whether it is shaping their mood, confidence, sleep and attention span, tonight's conversation is for you. Because what began as a harmless scrolling may now be at the center of a global policy shift, with governments and now Indian states seriously considering whether children should be banned from social media altogether. Hello viewers and welcome to Homework. This is your host Aman Sharma. Are your children constantly glued to their phones? Do you see them scrolling late into the night, laughing at reels one moment and withdrawing into silence the next? Have homework hours quietly turned into screen hours? If you have ever wondered whether your child is hooked on social media and whether it is shaping their mood, confidence, sleep and attention span, tonight's conversation is for you. Because what began as a harmless scrolling may now be at the center of a global policy shift, with governments and now Indian states seriously considering whether children should be banned from social media altogether. Hello viewers and welcome to Homework. This is your host Aman Sharma. Tonight the global debate over children and social media is no longer confined to Europe or Australia. It has entered India's policy corridors and increasingly state capitals are beginning to weigh in. At the India AI Impact Summit in New Delhi, Emmanuel Macron made a strong pitch for restricting children's access to social media. He announced that France is moving towards banning social media for children under 15 and urged Prime Minister Narendra Modi to join the club. The message was clear: the digital world cannot remain a regulatory vacuum when it comes to children. Macron's remarks come at a time when Australia has already implemented a nationwide ban on social media accounts for children under 16, placing responsibility on platforms to verify age. Across Europe, similar conversations are unfolding. But what makes this moment significant is that India is no longer a distant observer. At the center, IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has confirmed that the government is in discussions with social media companies regarding age-based access restrictions. While no formal draft law has yet emerged, consultations are ongoing. The focus is on whether India should introduce stricter age verification norms and what compliance framework platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat and YouTube would have to follow. But the new and important development is this: Indian states are beginning to think independently about the issue. Education, child welfare and school regulation fall substantially within the domain of the states. That gives them policy leverage, and several states are now exploring even if a national ban is not yet in place. In Goa, senior officials have publicly floated the idea of restricting social media access for children under 16. The state has discussed forming expert committees to examine digital addiction, online bullying and its impact on children. The concern there is linked closely to rising behavioral issues reported by schools and parents. Andhra Pradesh has gone a step further by constituting a ministerial level panel to study whether an Australia-style restriction could be adapted locally. The panel is reportedly examining mental health data, cybercrime complaints involving minors and the feasibility of enforcing age checks through telecom operators of school-linked systems. Karnataka, a major technology hub, has also seen public discussions around regulating children's digital exposure. Policymakers there face a dual tension. On one hand, Bengaluru is home to India's startup ecosystem and digital innovation economy. On the other hand, educators and parents have raised concerns about screen dependency amongst adolescents. Maharashtra too has witnessed debate within legislative and education circles about whether schools should implement device restrictions during school hours and whether the state can recommend age-based social media guidelines. What we are witnessing is not yet legislation, but a policy mood shift. States are recognizing that even without a central ban, they can act in specific domains. They can regulate phone usage within schools. They can mandate digitally literacy programs. They can recommend parental consent frameworks and they can create state-level cyber safety helplines for minors. However, enforcement remains the biggest challenge. If one state imposes restriction while others do not, children can easily bypass geographical barriers. Digital platforms do not operate in state boundaries. That is why many state governments are urging the center to create a uniform national framework rather than a patchwork model. There is also the question of constitutional competence. Telecommunications and digital platforms fall under the central jurisdiction, so any strict ban on account creation would likely require parliamentary legislation or rules under the existing IT laws. States can influence behavior through schools and awareness campaigns, but direct platform-level bans would require coordination with New Delhi. Beyond the legal and the administrative questions lies a deeper societal debate. India has one of the youngest populations in the world. Millions of teenagers use social media not just for entertainment but also for education and self-expression. Young creators from small towns have built careers through short videos. Students access tutorials, coding lessons, and global communities online. At the same time, reports of cyberbullying, online grooming, and dangerous viral challenges and screen addiction have alarmed parents. Teachers speak of shrinking attention spans. Psychologists report rising anxiety linked to digital comparison culture. So the question facing Indian states is not simple: prohibition versus total freedom. It is about calibrated intervention at the end of the day. Some policymakers are exploring hybrid models like mandatory parental consent for users under a certain age, device-free classroom policies, digital detox campaigns, state-funded counseling programs for online addiction, and strong cybercrime cells focusing on crime against minors. The center, meanwhile, must weigh privacy implications. Age verification systems could require identity checks. Would that involve Aadhaar? Would platforms store additional sensitive data? How would minors' data be protected? Any move towards stricter verification will intersect with India's evolving data protection framework. There is also a political dimension to this. Social media regulation in India is often viewed through the lens of free speech debates. Therefore, any child-focused restriction must be narrowly defined and transparently implemented to avoid confrontation with broader content regulation. What is undeniable, however, is that the momentum is real. From Paris to Canberra to Panaji and Hyderabad, the conversation is accelerating. If India does act, it will be one of the largest and the most consequential digital policy decisions globally. With one of the world's biggest youth populations online, India's stance could influence other developing nations. Tonight, the debate expands beyond a single summit approach. It is now about how Indian states, Indian parents, and Indian policymakers interpret the risks and rewards of the algorithm age. Do we shield children by restricting access? Do we redesign platforms to make them safer? Or do we focus on digital literacy and parental responsibility? The answers may not come overnight, but one thing is certain: the question of children and social media is no longer theoretical. It is political, it is administrative, and it is urgent. As states begin deliberating and the center consults stakeholders, the digital childhood of India stands at the crossroads. The decision ahead will shape not just policy, but a generation. To discuss this issue further, I am now being joined by Dr. Samir Parikh. He is the Director of Mental Health at Fortis Healthcare and a very renowned personality who speaks on these issues. Mr. Parikh, welcome on Homework. My first question to you, that from a mental health perspective, are we genuinely seeing a rise in anxiety, depression and attention disorders linked directly to social media use among children, or is this fear sometimes exaggerated?
No, man, I think we'll have to split this in two parts. And let's keep the illness aside for a moment, the anxiety, depression, ADHD. Let's keep this aside. If we rephrase your question and say, would I be, as a mental health professional, concerned about mental health effects of digital and social media on young people, teens? My answer would be yes, unambiguous yes. And that's how this needs to be seen. The moment we start bringing in depression, anxiety, then you're looking at more clinical conditions which have a different kind of an etiology, which means there are various causative factors. And when it comes to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the fact that digital usage may impair the attention, concentration, focus, reaction time, some of these things which are the cognitive, neurocognitive functions, that is largely an accepted fact.
Dr. Parikh, but at what point, would you say that does normal teenage screen use cross the line into addiction, and what warning sign should parents immediately watch for, before the damage becomes long term?
My concern here, Aman, is not merely about whether there is an uh, addictive potential also or not. Let's first try and understand the mental health component which is clearly causing harm. So let's look at this. One, there is a direct lifestyle impact. The more you spend time on digital, the more you do indoor, the less you do outdoor, from your physical health to your social relationships to your emotional connectedness, meaningful relationships, some of these get impacted. On top of that, like I just mentioned, the neurocognitive aspect, attention and other executive functions, they are getting impacted. You add on to this, there is a lot of information coming on young people. A lot of it is factually incorrect, largely based on algorithms. So you keep seeing the same thing again and again, and you may not be able to filter between what is factually correct and not, and you may be more predisposed to be believing in something that's not right, good for you, or correct, and that may have an impact on you. And then the mere fact that you keep doing this scrolling has its own impact, the brain fogs. So all of this needs to be seen. And then comes the addictive potential as well, where several hours are going in on social media usage, outdoor activity is restricted, academic performance gets impacted, relationships gets impacted. So there are concerns, and I don't think anybody can deny, including social media platforms, that there are concerns when it comes to young people's usage of social media and digital spaces.
Well, sir, what do you tell parents and children, who may be coming to you for advice, given this digital overuse of social media as such amongst children?
When it comes to young people, I'm a firm believer of media literacy. So I believe that we need to make young people media literate. You encourage them to ask questions. You encourage them to be more aware of how their time is going. Help them understand that they need to balance life, especially with outdoor and meaningful relationships, learning to switch off, learning not to have notifications, not being wanting to keep looking at the gadgets every time you get a chance. When it comes to parents, be a role model, most important. If you feel that the young person is spending a lot of time digitally, talk to them, encourage them to explore other activities, from creativity to sports, encourage them to spend meaningful time with peers. And if you feel that's not working, then probably make them talk to someone. And also to schools, where we talk about incorporating media literacy as an integral part of our curriculum, which I do feel needs to be there.
And sir, Australia has brought a ban, on social media. France is bringing one soon for children as well. Some states in India are also speaking about the same. Are social media bans the answer, in your view?
This is a tough one, honestly. I understand the negative impact. I understand that banning per se may not always be the go-to when it comes to freedom of choices. But I also cannot deny the impact on young formative minds, which may have an impact on long run. I mean, you add cyberbullying to this, you add predator behavior to this, you add other risk-taking behaviors to this, it gets complicated. The reason why the world is talking about these bans is because somewhere I feel that self-correction has not have really happened at two levels. I don't think social media platforms have really worked hard enough to ensure that they become child teen friendly spaces. I think that's something that should have happened, and self-regulation has to be there in any growing intelligent society. And the other part is, I don't think we've been able to enable and empower young people with the right kind of skill set, life skills, to be able to navigate this very, very tough maze that the digital spaces are. Now, if you don't have the skill set and if you don't have regulation, And then when you weigh the harms and benefit, now this is where the challenge is. And the reason why people are talking about ban is because somewhere we've realized that two things where we could have worked earlier, and since we have not, and probably the boat has sailed a bit too far away from us, that maybe right now we bring a structure, we bring some corrective path, and then focus on some of these things I still talked about, because that has to be the go in years to come. And in the interim, anything that is important for the future of young people is something that should be done unambiguously.
So, would you say then, my last question to you, digital literacy at home is what we really need and what should really work?
Home, schools, society, and everybody has to take part. This conversation, Aman, is important. And such conversations around this need to happen very, very consistently. And all of us need to realize, wake up to the real time concerns and also see what best we can do. I mean, advances in science need to help humankind, not create a mental health concern for young minds. That's not how it should work.
Well, this is an important conversation, as Dr. Samir Parikh says, and digital literacy at home is maybe what everybody should be working on in this day and age. Thank you so much, Mr. Parikh, for joining us on Homework at CNN News 18. So, should social media be banned for children? That is a big, big debate which is happening globally. But today in the studio, I decided to get two of my colleagues, Himani Channa and Arunima. And all three of us, in fact, are a parent to a young child. My daughter is 14, Himani's daughter is 11, and Arunima's son is 10-year-old. So, I want to discuss the personal experience of, social media. What do you think, Himani? What do you think about it? Should social media be banned? What has been your personal experience with your child when it comes to social media and gaming apps?
Aman, as a mother and as a person who has been covering health for several years now, I think there is no black and white here. Even according to American Academy of Pediatrics, ban is not the answer. Structured and meaningful use of social media is. When I turn it personal, on my personal end, I think my daughter has learned a lot from social media, especially YouTube and other reels. I've seen her learning coding, piano, guitar, doing a lot of mock tests, lot of explanatory videos. I don't need tuition for her. She keeps listening to all the maths tudes and everything online, but the idea is to regulate. I have all the parental controls on my YouTube and other ways. There is a need to filter the content. There is need to put a regulation on screen time usage, etc. But I think we can still manage without ban. I think that there should be no ban.
Arunima, your take on this?
Yeah, so I think Adya is Aman's daughter. She's in an age where, she's more into Instagram and perhaps there are other platforms which I'm not even aware about. My son Avyan is more into YouTube. Now, that's also a question. Is YouTube within the parameter of the social media ban that we are discussing? Because YouTube increasingly is used by children of that age for educational purposes as well. Just as I was coming here, he just asked me, what's Epstein? I was like, where did you come up with that? So on YouTube, he has been, Googling and trying to find out about what are the top headlines of the day or what is current, because they have a GK quiz coming up, and Epstein came up. So how does one explain to a 10-year-old child what Epstein Island is all about? How much of information do you give it to him? That's a challenge as a parent for me. But the very fact that the child is aware enough to look for the right thing, I mean, age appropriate or not, that is subject to how much of parental control that you have. But I appreciate the fact that he is Googling out, he's YouTubing things which are being talked about around him, trying to look for the right information and trying to get it from an adult as well. I would agree with Himani, regulation may be the answer. If you ban something, chances are that under the table, from right, from left, it will come back. My bigger concern are the gaming apps. I'm not naming an app, but all parents of children of this age know that there are apps which they are addicted to, and if you try and delete it, unfortunate what happened to the Ghaziabad sisters. The jury is still out whether the Korean gaming app was responsible or not, but I was not surprised when I read the headline first, because I've seen my child's peer group completely addicted to the gaming apps, and if they are deleted, they feel a sense of a withdrawal symptom. So maybe, we should come up as a society at the government level, regulatory mechanism for gaming apps more than social media.
And Himani, when our children are on social media, there's always this challenge to tell them to shut it down. That, your screen time is now up, and you do get a reaction from the children when that happens. Has that also been your experience, that there is this, resistance to shut down screen time?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest new age parenting challenge that we all have been facing. Initially, I was also very skeptical. Should she be making an account on Instagram? She also has account on LinkedIn, for that matter. So the idea is, if we try to prohibit or ban the usage, historically we have seen that the things go underground. Our children will make secret accounts which we may never get to know. Parental control, forget about it, we will not know whom they are talking to. So what I decided to do was, I told her, okay, let's make an Instagram account and co-use it. The idea for this generation is, try to be their friends, be curious with them, don't try to be accusatory, don't use that tone. So I try to understand who you follow, what do you do, what makes you uncomfortable online. You can report bullying, you can report offensive messages. I have restricted DMs. I also open the same application on my device as well, so that I can keep an eye on what she is doing online. All those things I try to do with her, along with telling her that everything you see online is not real. Whatever you are seeing online is not something that universe is trying to tell you. It's the algorithm that is trying to amplify that content. Don't share too much of your personal information online. Aman, if you go back in time and if you recall those days when we were growing up, our parents used to sit with us and give instructions. They told us how to navigate in the society. So digital skill is the new way of life. You cannot say that, you will get it when you will turn 16. You have to tell them as a friend that, okay, let's do it this way. So that they come to you when they see anything suspicious. You have to make them learn this behavior.
I just wanted to make a simple point. When my child was 3-year-old or 4-year-old, I came from that mental frame, no screen time, right? Then COVID happened. When COVID happened, schools started sending homeworks, classworks became online. COVID is long gone, but pollution is a gale ka fanda for all Delhi NCR parents. Every third day, there is a pollution chutti in school. Classes are happening online. So when I've already been forced to give him or her the laptop or the iPad, now after opening up the Pandora's box, I can't say, no, but the key is going to be with me. I mean, the government or whoever is thinking about regulating must look at the practical aspect as well, especially with working parents. When kids of our age, most of them are navigating a lot of time at home alone, and they're expected to study when the study material is online. I mean, you'll have to look for some other thing other than ban.
So also we discover new things about children using social media. Something I discovered, I discovered something somebody told me, and he said something called fake Insta. So what is a fake Insta? That your child is on Instagram, but the posts shown are 0. There is no post on that Instagram handle. The child only posts stories, and the stories are hidden from the parents. So you can't see the stories. Everything disappears after 24 hours. There is no trace, and that is called fake Insta. Maybe many children are doing that and are much smarter than us. But also, I think one last question I want to ask to both of you. What age did you give your child a phone? And do you think that was the right decision, or when will you give your child a phone? That's also big, because phone is something that you can go around mobile with and always check social media. You can't really control how a child is using his or her phone.
Well, we have mutually decided that whenever he gets a phone, it will be that keypad phone, not a social media phone for now. And so far, he is agreeable. I don't know how long he is going to be agreeable, and that will be more of a convenience, because sometime I'll have to let go of him. His independence. He goes to the park to play. He goes for his cricket coaching to play. And I know there are friends and colleagues who are now forced to send their child alone, either with a driver or sometimes in a public transport as well, if they're slightly older. So a phone will be given, but so far the agreement is to not give a smartphone. And also, I've been reading research to say that this generation is not as much into social media as us, the millennials, are. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that by the time Avyan reaches that age, perhaps things will be better off from where we are at this point.
Actually, I gave her phone, I think 4 years back, and that was Santa actually told us to give her a phone. So she wanted one, and we both are working parents. We are not at home. So phone, WhatsApp actually makes conversation very convenient. She's doing her homework. She keeps sending pictures and all of that. But yeah, there is a screen time usage limit we have put. On YouTube, we have put the content filters. We are trying our best. We go back home generally in night. I check the history, what she has been talking to Chat GPT is also like reading.
Now she'll know everything.
Now she'll know everything. Yeah, I keep reading her Chat GPT history. I mean, how you think of banning something from this generation? I mean, she keeps talking to Chat GPT. She asks Chat GPT how this haircut will look on me. How should I convince my mother to get this haircut or this product? I don't think that banning is any solution, not at all.
But then, countries like Australia, in fact, Mr. Macron was here, and France is looking to ban social media soon. He asked Mr. Modi to join the club. Maybe some kind of ban, I think, is in the works of the Indian government. I think it will be more to weigh in on the social media platforms. But as Arunima was saying, that how do you factor in YouTube? How do you factor in Chat GPT? How do they come under social media? Do they not come under social media? Children are generally very inquisitive as well to go on these platforms, isn't it?
You only mean Facebook, Instagram and Twitter perhaps when you say social media. Exactly how are you defining it when you say we are going to ban it?
And also these platforms should have a stricter age verification systems. You know, my daughter, she's still 11 and she has accounts across. She's on LinkedIn as well. So the age verification protocols on these systems are very weak.
I agree with you, and there's a way to bypass them as well, and that is what I think many of the younger children who are smarter are maybe doing it. But the debate is getting only bigger, and because as I said, many foreign nations are thinking about it. Even Indian states like Andhra Pradesh, Nara Lokesh has spoken about it. Goa is speaking about it. Maharashtra is speaking about it. So very clearly, I think the threat is very real. The addiction possibility is very real, and I think, as I was speaking to Dr. Samir Parikh earlier on this show, and he said digital literacy at home is very important. You need to actually make your child realize that beyond a point, this is not something that they need to do. But will the children listen? As Aruma was saying, she'll give a phone which is not a smartphone, but will her son, under peer pressure from others, when others have iPhones, agree to that? Well, only time will tell. But I think this debate is one of the most important debates in this day and age, and that is why we chose to do it on Homework this time. We'll be back next week on Homework. This is Aman Sharma for CNN News 18.